Meghan Markle is facing a fresh wave of criticism after a trip to the United Kingdom triggered explosive claims that the Duchess of Sussex may have been deliberately creating breadcrumbs for the media to follow.
She calls the paparazzi on herself when she goes out in Montecito. There's a sickness with her. There's something off with her, and we all talk about her like she's this normal person, this reasonable human being. This is a very unwell.
And the most controversial part, critics are now accusing Meghan of wanting the very paparazzi attention she has repeatedly complained about. That accusation has become impossible to ignore after images from Meghan and Prince Harry's visit to Althorp, where Princess Diana is buried, suddenly appeared online. The timing was striking, so was the way the images were presented. Critics immediately pointed to what they described as carefully framed, almost candid-looking photographs of Archie and Lilibet at Diana's graveside, including images showing the children from behind. And Link Lauren had already predicted something remarkably similar. Weeks before the images appeared, Lauren reportedly said he expected Meghan to visit Diana's burial site with the children and release carefully staged photographs from behind. Then the pictures appeared. That is why the latest controversy has exploded. Critics aren't simply talking about a family visiting the grave of a grandmother. They're questioning whether the visit was also designed to generate publicity, create emotional headlines, and potentially provide material for future projects. And then came the candle prediction. Lauren has claimed Meghan could eventually release a limited edition Princess Diana-themed candle through her lifestyle brand, reportedly calling it Candle in the Wind. The idea has become one of the most talked about predictions surrounding the Sussexes because of the obvious connection to Elton John's famous tribute to Diana. Whether that prediction ever materializes remains to be seen, but critics are already asking whether the Althorp images could have been only the beginning, because this is where the story takes a darker turn. Lauren believes the photographs released publicly may have been just a teaser. He has suggested there could be considerably more footage showing the family visiting Diana's grave, laying flowers, and spending time at Althorp. If such footage exists and eventually becomes part of a documentary or a streaming project, the photographs could suddenly look very different in retrospect. They wouldn't simply be holiday photographs, they could become promotional material. And that's exactly what has critics talking. The Sussexes' relationship with the media has always been complicated. Harry has spoken extensively about his anger toward the paparazzi and the trauma surrounding his mother's death. His concerns about security and media intrusion have been central to his public arguments since stepping away from royal duties. Yet critics are now pointing to what they describe as a contradiction. If privacy and security are so important, why release photographs and location clues that could make it easier for journalists and photographers to find them? That question became particularly loud during the couple's recent travels. According to commentary cited in the material, Meghan appeared to leave clues about their whereabouts in Portugal, including photographs taken around identifiable locations. Critics interpreted those posts as breadcrumbs. The argument was simple. If you genuinely don't want the press to know where you are, why make it so easy for them to figure it out? And then there was the alleged Balmoral breadcrumb. One photograph reportedly showed a roadside location in the Scottish Highlands, which some commentators interpreted as an attempt to generate speculation that Harry and Meghan had been invited to Balmoral. That speculation became another source of criticism. The Sussexes reportedly did spend time in Scotland, but reports cited in the material said they stayed on Tanera Moor, a private island, rather than at Balmoral. They also reportedly visited Althorp and later had tea with King Charles and Queen Camilla at Highgrove. Yet, according to the commentary, the public was left to piece together the itinerary through photographs and location clues. And that's what critics found so strange. Why create the mystery in the first place? Why not simply say where they were? Why post a photograph that encourages speculation and then refuse to address the speculation? That's where the criticism becomes particularly sharp. Critics say Meghan appears to want two things at once. She wants the benefits of being photographed, discussed, and followed, while also maintaining the image of someone desperate to escape media intrusion. And those two positions don't sit comfortably together. One commentator went even further, claiming that Meghan calls paparazzi on herself when she goes out in Montecito. That claim has now become part of the wider argument about her relationship with publicity. The suggestion is that the photographs aren't always random encounters with photographers. Instead, critics believe some appearances may be coordinated or tipped off in advance. That accusation is particularly controversial because Montecito isn't exactly known as a place where paparazzi are constantly hunting down every resident. So critics are asking a blunt question. If photographers somehow know exactly where Meghan is, who is giving them the information? The answer, according to her critics, is Meghan herself, and that's where the hypocrisy accusation comes in. For years, Harry and Meghan have talked about privacy. They've discussed harassment, they've spoken about security, they've complained about media intrusion. Yet critics say the couple also understands that media attention is incredibly valuable. Attention creates headlines. Headlines create relevance, and relevance can create commercial opportunities. That's the uncomfortable reality sitting underneath this entire controversy. And then there is Diana. This is where the criticism becomes much more emotional. Princess Diana remains one of the most recognizable and commercially powerful figures connected to the British royal family. Her image, her story, and her legacy continue to generate enormous public interest decades after her death. Harry is her son, Archie and Lilibet are her grandchildren, so naturally a visit to her grave carries enormous emotional significance. But critics argue that turning that private family moment into social media content risks changing the meaning of the visit. That's why the accusation of exploitation has become so fierce. Lauren reportedly predicted that Meghan would use Diana's legacy for publicity, including a possible documentary and the alleged Candle in the Wind product. He also argued that the 30th anniversary of Diana's death in 2027 could create another major opportunity for the Sussexes to revisit her story. That possibility has critics watching closely. Could there be a documentary? Could there be additional footage from Althorp? Could Diana's story become part of another commercial project? Those are the questions now hanging over the controversy. And the bigger issue is Harry, because whatever Meghan does involving Diana inevitably affects the relationship between Harry and his family. William has always had a deeply personal connection to his mother's memory, so critics believe the public release of photographs from Diana's grave could deepen the already enormous divide between the brothers. One commentator argued that William could see the images as crossing a line that the royal family has traditionally respected, and if that happens, repairing the relationship could become even harder. Then there's another layer. The Sussexes reportedly met King Charles during their UK trip. That alone generated attention because Harry's relationship with his father has been complicated since the couple left royal duties. So while the public was watching the family reunion, commentators were also watching every photograph, every location, and every clue. Was the trip about family? Was it about reconciliation? Was it about publicity? Or was it all of the above? That's the uncomfortable question. Because the Sussexes don't operate in a normal celebrity environment anymore. Everything they do is interpreted through the royal family. A photograph of their children isn't simply a photograph. A visit to Diana's grave isn't simply a visit. A photograph near Balmoral isn't simply a photograph. Every image can become a headline, every headline can become a story, and every story can become part of the Sussex brand. That's why critics are so suspicious. They believe Meghan understands the attention economy extremely well. She knows what makes people talk, she knows how emotional imagery works, and she knows that Diana remains one of the most powerful names in the royal story. Now people are waiting to see whether the Althorp photographs were really the end of the story or merely the beginning. Because if more footage emerges, if a documentary appears, or if a Diana-inspired product suddenly arrives, those critics who predicted it will claim they saw it coming. And if the alleged candle ever appears, expect the internet to explode. For now, the questions are still hanging in the air. Why were those particular photographs released? Were there more? Why were so many location clues appearing during the trip? Was the Balmoral speculation deliberate? And what exactly does Meghan plan to do with the Diana material that may have been captured during the family's visit? Those questions aren't going away, and the most uncomfortable question of all may be the simplest. Was this really just a family visiting Princess Diana's grave? Or were we watching the opening scene of Meghan Markle's next major publicity play?